20,000 years ago, human beings and scattered tribes struggled to survive. Large animals roamed the planet, and the Ice Age was at its fullest glacial flow. Technology in the form of primitive tools, civilization through language, and a global warming which thawed the glaciers gave human society a chance to expand. 20,000 years later, ironically, global warming is one of several threats to the planetary ecology. Along with a level of wealth and productivity unrivaled in human history, we've extracted and exploited natural resources, often with little thought for their renewal. What kind of world will we leave for our children?
On a September day in the fall of 1989, with the great oil spill by the Exxon Valdez still fresh in people's minds, the leaders of a new coalition offered a challenge and an invitation to corporate America.
The Ceres project was founded on the belief that considering financial profits alone when investing in savings for our future can blind us to social and environmental costs that may in fact rob us of our ability to have a future. Nowhere is this concept more graphically illustrated than in our environment. We need a new accounting. We need to measure profits by the dictionary definition, which is the sum remaining after all costs, direct or indirect, are deducted from the income of a business. We need a new value. Invest to sustain the earth as you would have the earth sustain you.
The environment of our planet is in a condition of crisis in many important areas. Global warming, ozone depletion, rainforest destruction, ocean pollution, urban decay, toxic wastes. In all of these, the world is in far worse shape today than it was 20 years ago. Environmentalists now are determined to supplement our political activities with an economic dimension. We are enlisting in the fight for a sustainable world not just as voters and as citizens, but as investors, as consumers, and as employees.
We come together especially to educate corporate America to its self-interest in preserving and protecting and promoting the environment. So today is an historic occasion.
Every corporation should take this seriously. Why not? These are important. These values are important. We want the country to run on this. We want the corporations to run on this.
So this, in many ways, is the beginning of a new period within those organizations that are focused on the environment. Because collectively, we can indeed change the face of the planet, and indeed we have no choice.
As we came together and brainstormed, put together the reporting need and the environmental mission or vision statement became the 10 principles that were announced in 1989 as the Valdez Principles.
As I have come to know this world from the moment of my birth until the day my life has done, I'll pledge allegiance to the earth. I'll pledge allegiance to the earth.
We'd like to welcome the international folks who come from all the way from India, Philippines, and of course...
A decade after the initial press conference, Ceres is a remarkable coalition of practical activists representing the environmental concerns of tens of millions of Americans, principled investors with $1/3 of $1 trillion stake in the economy, working with more than 50 thoughtful corporations. This is the story of how they are redefining the potential for a worldwide environmental crisis which once seemed inevitably confrontational and possibly terminal.
This began for us in the era of apartheid in South Africa, where we began to use the leverage of our investments in corporations to help bring about democratic reforms in South Africa.
The initial positive response to Ceres came from a hearty band of small companies, small at least by Fortune 500 standards, with annual sales from a few million to a few $100 million.
We get twice as much lumber out of the same log today that we did 30 years ago.
We had a company that wanted to do the right thing, and we had a group of environmentalists and environmentally responsible investors saying, whoa, that's terrific. We're Things became more difficult is when we reached out to oil companies and electric utilities and steel companies.
Well, the issue of why Ceres and why we began our relationship with them goes back to the early 1990s when we were essentially restructuring, rethinking about the whole corporation. We ended up getting a synergistic effect that was extraordinarily beneficial to us.
Ceres was distinctive in 3 areas. First of all, that Ceres promoted, created a form of stakeholder dialogue which was really not available anywhere else. This quality of collaborative dialogue was rare. It required some history and some trust. Secondly, we embraced vigorously our identity as the leading proponent of standardized environmental reporting. And then the third thing was being a catalyst for change. And interestingly, this came out of our conversations with companies. When we said, why do you stay involved with Ceres? They said, this is a catalyst for internal change. It helps transform our cultures. Now, we've learned that it's difficult to go to a new company and say, get involved with Ceres and your culture will be changed, because very few companies recognize at the outset that that's something that they wish to do.
Mark my words, none of these companies did this simply because they believed in the environment. They could make a very strong and cogent argument inside and to their board about why it served the business interests of the company. And in a strange way, I trust that more than simply we convinced them that it was the environmentally responsible thing to do.
Last year we had a transaction in the Middle East, $1.2 billion petrochemical plant. Very creditworthy. We declined to go in that deal because it exceeded the World Bank emission guidelines by 9 times. You know, not a little bit, but just enormous. So our people in London declined it, said we don't want our name on that. Now, let me tell you what that did for the environment. It did nothing, absolutely zero for the environment. 3 of the biggest New York banks did the deal. The thing is being built as we speak. The existence of international standards or international guidelines on what is acceptable environmentally and what is not is absolutely critical. Accepted means accepted by the business community, by the environmental community, and by the governments involved. If the standards don't exist for certain industries, or if they're not accepted by all parties, then we have nothing to hang our hat on.
We try to find an agreement, and we're probably never going to get everybody satisfied, but at least...
From the beginning, Ceres' mix of shareholders and environmentalists necessarily had a mixed agenda. We wanted companies to accept a strong environmental commitment, but going out of business as a result was not part of the equation. In a worldwide, highly competitive market economy, the link between reporting and standards would be critical to creating a level playing field where responsibility and accountability were the rule. As Ceres entered its 2nd decade, it took the lead in developing a global initiative focusing both on reporting and standards and widening the scope to a higher vision of sustainability.
This conference represents a landmark in bringing together such a distinguished group from so many constituencies and disciplines around the world for this purposeful dialogue.
Our gathering here is an artifact of globalization. That process has, of course, created enormous wealth. But it has not necessarily created equity or fairness.
This represents the first step on a long journey, as sustainability reporting is a new discipline. It is hoped that the GRI guidelines will help corporations better understand and describe their approach to sustainability.
We believe strongly that this is the direction we want to take, and this is the organization along which we want to align our thinking and our management. We need a global reporting framework.
Reporting is not for reporting's sake. It has a broader goal, and that is, in fact, to help us achieve sustainability in the future. Environmental and sustainability reporting has moved from a kind of rare practice to now common practice. It's emerging as an integral part of corporate accountability, corporate citizenship, and corporate stakeholder engagement. That's all good news.
In 1989, Ceres was created out of a confluence of hope and historical need. The need was to refocus our industrial system on what lies below the bottom line. The hope that corporations would honor the planetary resources on which we all depend. Through an active set of principles leading to improved corporate environmental behavior, a widespread acceptance of the need for public accountability, and an unprecedented shift towards collaboration among stakeholders, CERI's first decade directly affected dozens of companies, including some of the largest in the world, and has influenced hundreds more. Not only in the United States, but internationally through the Global Reporting Initiative, CERIS is a critical part of a transition to a sustainable society.
Yet where there's hope, there's also challenge. Population poverty and greed make any predictions of easy solutions absurd. It'll take vision, leadership, compromise, and a lot of hard work behind the scenes for the story of human stewardship of this small planet to have a happy ending.
Will we find a way to bring more companies in this country and in other countries to accept the goals of the CERIS principles and to raise the bar of environmental performance every year until we are confident that the danger to the planet has been slowed, stopped, and reversed?
If all the world were peaceful now and forevermore, peaceful at the surface and peaceful at the core, all the joy within my heart would be so free to soar. And we're living on a living planet, circling a living star.